Clarko, you had to absorb a lot of pressure late. How significant a win is that for your footy club?
Fine line between pleasure and pain, isn't there? I can't tell you I was overly confident that Jake was going to miss that shot. And we were lucky to win in the end. We did do enough, however, particularly coming off such a poor performance last week. We did do enough. We tackled well. We applied a lot of pressure. And particularly, around the end of the first quarter and start of the second, Harley got going, lit the fuse, in the last part of the first quarter and early part of the second, and to rally from that when we were significantly challenged, when we were on the road, and the West Coast crowd got behind their side, and we could have really easily folded at that point in time, particularly after last week's loss. But we dug in there and found a way to get ourselves back in front by half time. And then, of course, our third quarter was strong. They kicked a goal late in the third that just gave them a little bit of a sniff again. And then they, as you know, with West Coast over here, it's when the wind's behind their sails, they can get going. And we did really well to hold them back. But just luck that we ended up winning the game, really, because with it at the death knock, they probably should have finished that goal and win the game of footy.
Tackle numbers were big and you won contested ball. What were you looking for specifically from your players to show a response this week?
Oh, exactly that, a response. You don't lose your talent. We will look at the reasons why coming out of the Gold Coast win. Then we have a bye. Try and get ourselves ready for Fremantle. Why we're so poor in our application to our effort and our energy levels, because that was just so unlike us last week. We don't pretend that. We know we've got a lot of work to do as a footy side, but we haven't seen that type of performance from us for a long period of time. And but sometimes they happen. You don't like it, but every one of us that have been in the game for a long period of time, either as a player or a coach, we've all been involved in losses like that. We've also been involved in wins where you've won by heavy margins too. So that's the swings and roundabouts. But the most important thing out of the disappointment of last week was the way that we responded today, and particularly in the second quarter, as I said, when West Coast threw everything at us and challenged, and it looked like the game was going to slip away there, and we just dug in and found a way just to be competitive in the last part of the second quarter, got ourselves in front, and then had a good third quarter and put a 3-goal margin on the game in that quarter. And fortunately we did, because it was just enough to get us across the line, but just by luck that we ended up winning the game.
Jack Darling was big in that first half, especially the second quarter. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah. Well, he kicked 4 of our 5 goals in the first half. So he was instrumental in us being able to stay in the game at that point in time, because he looked like being the guy that would be the focal point for us, that could try and split the game open for us. But he was important for us. Larky was important for us. But it was a seesawing contest, and West Coast would be really, really disappointed that they lost that game of footy, and we would have been really disappointed too had we lost it, given so much hard work that we'd done, especially during the week, to get our mindset and our energy right to be able to perform a hell of a lot better than last week. And for big periods of the game, with our tackling pressure and our intent and our work around the contest, we're pleased with what we did, but we also let ourselves down in that space at crucial times too. So we know we've got some work to do, but our season's still alive. We're 6 and 7. We know that there's a lot of hard work ahead of us. Our last 6 weeks has been a really, really tough 6 weeks, and we'll cop the criticism, and fairly so, for our performance last week. But I don't think anyone in the competition had us winning too many of those 6 games when they saw the draw at the start of the year and said you got Geelong at Geelong, Adelaide and Adelaide, GWS in Canberra, Fremantle at Bunbury, and West Coast at which is our home game, but theirs really. It's just like that's a tough 5 or 6 week period, and we've come through with a couple of wins, hardly convincing wins, but if we add them up to the 4 that we got earlier in the year, then we go into the sort of back half of the year with some sort of confidence that we'll improve on our ladder position and our performances from last year.
What did you make of the poor Curtis tackle resulting in a heavy concussion to Davis?
Oh, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a replay of it, so I'm never one to comment on it anyway. And to be fair, we're not allowed to comment on it. So you guys can make as much comment as you like, but not me.
It's one of the more unlucky ones. Sometimes momentum's going in one direction, so when arms are pinned, it can result in some pretty bad consequences.
Physical game, and it's our game allows you to tackle, and so sometimes these things will happen.
You mentioned Clarko. How would you describe his influence overall on this game?
Well, in a low-scoring game, he kicked 3, I think, didn't he? And Darling kicked 4. Is that right? 4 for Lucky, was it? I didn't realise he kicked 4, but given such a low-scoring game, to make a scoreboard impact like that, we'd like a much greater spread of goal kickers than 2 of our guys kicking most of our goals. So, as I said, we've got some work to do as a footy club. We've known that with all the games that we've played this year. Sadly lacking in energy and effort last week. And to the guys' credit, they found a way to find the belief and trust and energy to get themselves up for this game in what was a pretty torrid week, to be fair, coming off a 20-goal loss. So. Take the 4 points and run. And similar to what I said before, if someone has said right at the start, irrespective of the margins and that sort of stuff, if you come away from this Perth trip 1-1, they say, well, that's probably about right. Fremantle are flying at the minute. They made us look silly last week. They're a very, very good side, but we're that bad. It's hard to judge what Fremantle are like, really. But we do know they're a very, very good side because they're sitting on top of the ladder for a reason. But we get ourselves ready for the Tigers next Sunday.
Were you disappointed at quarter time? You talked about winning contested possession today, but I think you were down 10 at some stage in the first quarter. Was that disappointing, and did they need a bit of realigning at quarter time?
Well, I thought we were. I think it was 2 goals to 1, or I think they scored 2 goals late in the first quarter, didn't they? And I thought for a greater part of the first quarter, irrespective of what the stats were saying around contested ball and that sort of stuff, I thought we were controlling the game the way that we wanted to be controlled, and both sides kicked inaccurately early in the game. I think it was 2-5 to 1-4 or something at one stage there, and then they got a couple of goals, and I think did Harley kick both those goals in the end of the first quarter? I'm not sure. He certainly kicked one of them. We got a bit rattled, a little bit undisciplined. That's Harley's an agitator. We got caught up in that, gave away a free kick off the ball. Exactly what he wants to in response to that. So he's a great competitor, and you just can't fall into that if you're disciplined and smart with your play. So that gave them a little bit of momentum that took them into the quarter time break with their noses in front, when I felt like we were probably playing the best footy in the first quarter. We didn't capitalise on some of our chances, and then they got going for about 10 minutes at the start of the second. It was like, wow, this is going to be hard to arrest. And there was a decision where I think Waterman, looked like he kicked a goal out of the goal square, and then they returned that from the centre bounce because it wasn't deemed to be a goal. That was just the impetus we needed, a little bit of luck. Sometimes, we had two ounces of luck. One was that he didn't get his boot on that ball, and then late in the game, and you got to take those chances, because there's been plenty of times when we've been just a little bit stiff, whether it's an umpiring decision or a bounce of the ball. That's the swings and roundabouts of the game. You just unfortunately got to cop them when the rub of the green goes against you, and like today. I'm pretty sure that both West Coast and and North would have been disappointed had there been a loss, and we're just lucky that we're the ones with our nose in front at the end.
What does success over this fortnight look like for North Melbourne? You finished 1-1 last week, not flash today, fall over the line, but I think crowds-wise, I think there's 11,000 more than showed up last year at the same time for the two games. Is that a successful fortnight for you guys?
Yeah, well, I think so. That's a big commitment by the club and also the Western Australian government. I'm sure the West Coast Eagles and Fremantle are delighted with the arrangement because they get to play an extra game here in the state and not have to get on the road. They do a lot of travel, those sides, but there's some sides that do a lot of travel. We're a side that has to travel a lot, and that's just the environment which you play in. So, I'm not sure of all the numbers and that sort of stuff. It's probably better for Jen Watt and Sonia to respond to how successful it's been for us. But we know we've got a really, really strong and deep supporter base. It was great to have Jimmy Cracker in the rooms today. He's an old teammate of mine, and he's had some particular tragedy in his life with the death of his son Andrew earlier. Not sure if it was early in the year or later last year, but it's just so good to see a legend of our footy club involved, and that's why we've got such a good following. Whether it's the Glenn Dennings or the Cracker brothers or the Melrose, and then there's about 7 or 8 current players who are all Western Australian lads who are wearing the colours now. So that's why we enjoy coming here and linking up with the families and linking up with our supporters, and we've got another year of it, and then hopefully they'll work out whether or not it's been successful enough to continue on.
Tristan Cherry, as a forward, what was the idea behind that? Was it more to stretch the Eagles' defence, or was it he just needed to do the job out?
Well, I'm pretty. He was back at the last part of the game, which I was pretty pleased about because he took 3 pretty important marks late for us that were really important for us. But no, we wanted to try and give young Goad some exposure to the ruck, and I thought he acquitted himself really well in his first game and made it a real contest in there, and did some really good things. Got his hands to the ball a lot, and we didn't look uncomfortable with him in that part of the ground. But if you don't give him some exposure there, then he probably only plays 25 or 30% game time. So for him to be on the ground and taking some of the ruck work, and he's just a different type of ruckman than what Big X is. He's got a long reach on him, and it gives him a chance to get the hands on the footy and get the ball forward for us. So we're really pleased with what he's able to contribute today, and just gives us a little bit more flexibility with what we do with Sherry in the ruck. And at different stages he was forward of the ball, and then some late he was behind the ball, which was pretty pivotal us to stop them when they were coming pretty hard. He took some pretty telling marks late.
I know last week you were really disappointed with the contest work, but today, you smashed it out of the park against the Eagles. What was the turnaround? What was the week like to spark that?
Just a response, and it's hard as a coaching group and a playing group to try to put a finger on what happened in our preparation for the Fremantle game, but we just weren't there. We come up against a very talented side, of course, who are very, very strong in that facet of the game, but we're just nowhere near the mindset to compete, and we're much better in that space. But to be fair, I thought at different stages West Coast were really strong in that space today too, and whoever seemed to be winning that contest battle seemed to have the ascendancy with getting the ball forward and giving themselves a chance to get some momentum and then score. And I thought at different stages both sides had that. So we're certainly much, much better than what we were last week, but we've still got a long way to go to be consistent in that space, and we're going to be getting to work on that. That's always a key focus for your side, but when you have your pants pulled down like we did last week, you need to make sure that you're really, really strong in that space, and we're better, but we need to be better again if we're going to continue to try and win games of footy and climb ourselves back up the ladder. Good on you guys, thank you.